because it's a different kind of material.
And then they had this screened-in porch on the side. But my cousin Evelyn Haley said that this front room here, that was a fireplace and had a big crane in the miniature, and they cooked in there. So I think that might have been the regular kitchen, and that room was her bedroom or living room.
Well, the bedrooms would have been upstairs.
Well, upstairs, yes. That was her living room in there, I guess. And this was her kitchen. And I bet you if you tear that out, that old thing's still there. It might be a crane.
Probably.
Might be a crane in there yet. Because there's a crane in the basement.
Yes.
So what year did your family move into the Lumens moved into this house?
1839.
Okay.
That's when Isaiah Lumen purchased this farm.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the house was on it.
And what did the family farm?
Beg pardon?
What did they farm? Did they mostly have cattle or?
Well, sure they had. They planted corn and wheat, and that was probably it. Corn and wheat and hay for their livestock. Of course, they had horses. They had to produce a lot of hay to feed the horses and corn. Most of the corn that they produced was to feed the horses and the cows. Of course, they had milk cows, and they always had a sow or two to produce the hogs, so they produce their own meat.
Mm-hmm.
And the horses and the cow or two that they had, and the hogs and the chickens probably consumed all the corn that they could produce, because back then they only could produce about 40 bushel to the acre, where we grow 150 now.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got better varieties and better cultural practices, so it's all changed.
And when you were growing up, what did you farm?
We have grew corn and wheat, and of course a lot of hay. We didn't grow soybeans when I was young, growing up.
And all the sisters helped, right? Because you were the only boy.
See, Dad didn't have a son to help him. When I was a kid, I can remember my sisters in bib overalls and going to the field to help Dad, whether it was help harvest wheat or put up some hay or whatever. They helped.
So the girls, they weren't in here cooking. They were out in the field.
No, my oldest sister, Ruth, she always helped Mom.
Yeah.
I know I'd come in the evening, and Ruth would be standing at the stove. We had an old cook stove, and she'd be standing there watching food on and reading something. She always had something she was reading.
She was reading, and she burnt the potatoes all the time. They were so good. I love burnt fried potatoes.
And the other sisters went to the fields.
Yes, but during the wintertime, when it was school was in session, my sisters would get up and go to the barn and milk those 8 or 10 cows that we had. Dad didn't milk cows. He said it gave him hay fever. He had an allergy, so he couldn't milk. So the sisters milked. And then they'd come up and change their clothes and eat breakfast, fix their school lunches. Well, Mom probably had their lunches fixed. And then they would strike out walking. They'd go down here around the barn, and Dad had steps over the fence that went through the wires on both sides, and something to hold on to where they could tuck up those steps and down on the other side. And then they walked through the fields a mile.
Across the creek.
Across the creek. There was a little log across there. And it was just about a mile after where the Prayford Community House is now.
Mm-hmm.
That was a one-room school. And that's where they went to school.
Rachel did too.
My grandma went there, yeah.
Yes. And then they would walk back, come home in the afternoon, and come up, take their school clothes off and their muddy overshoes, and go down and milk the cows.
And to milk them twice.
Yeah.
The what?
You had to milk the cows twice.
Morning and night.
Yeah, morning and night. And of course, I didn't have to walk to school because the Prather School was built when I went to school, and we would catch a school bus down at the road.
Oh, you got spoiled.
Yeah, well, that's what. Yeah,
I walked to
we
school,
Clay walked to school
and I
first year.
and I was so tiny. I was the smallest one. I wasn't quite 6 years old, and I walked. We didn't have a bridge then. I had to walk across the creek on a water log,
Yeah,
and that creek was deep. And I'd walk along. There was something along the side there to hold to.
yeah.
And Mary held me hold my dress, so I wouldn't fall.
If when you cross a bridge, you can look up the creek. There's a water gate there with the gate hanging on to keep the cows from going through. But they had a log there all the way across. There was two big stone pillars built. They were down now. And that log was across there. And Dad had a wire as you walked. I think he had a board nailed on top of the log, a wide board. And you walked along across there and held to that wire. And that's the way they crossed the creek.
The creek was deep too. Them had to walk clear through
Yes.
the bottom and out that road to
And you
Playfair
went by
School.
all by yourselves.
Well, the girls, your older sisters, you were with older sisters.
Now, how old were your older sisters?
Ruth was in the 8th grade, and Mary was in the 7th. And by the time I get to this crossroad, that tiny little old girl was tired. And so Mary and Ruth made a basket in their arms and let me sit there and carry me up that hill. And the principal's ringing the school bell.
And how much younger were you than Mary and Ruth?
Let's see. They was
Ruth was born in 1909, and you were born in 1918.
yes.
So
yes.
Ruth was 9 years older than you.
Yes. And Mary was a year younger, and the first 4 were just a year apart. And Rachel was my buddy. She was just 2 years older than me. Rachel and Richard Savannah were the last 4,
Mm-hmm.
and we got into mischief.
Yeah, we always were the gang of 4 younger ones, and the 4 older sisters, they were sophisticated
It
then.
was the second shift.
They were second shift.
They were too good to hang out with you,
Yeah, they didn't want to hang out with kids.
huh?
Rachel always gets into trouble. And Dad had this new straw stack. Straw.
Yeah,
And
well,
you pay a man to put it on the top.
we
so it
didn't
wouldn't-
have combines then to harvest the wheat.
Uh-huh.
You know what a combine
Uh-huh.
is. Well, we when the wheat got ripe, we would cut it with a thing that was pulled by horses. It would cut it off and put it in little bundles
Mm-hmm.
and tie the bundles up, and you would carry them on this thing that cut the wheat. And there was a carrier out there would carry it 6 or 8 bundles, and then
Binder.
you would drop them in rows. You know, when you came to the row, you'd push something with your foot, and they would all fall off. And then they were in rows like that all around the field. And then we had to go and shock them. And the sisters done that before I was old enough. And you would get those and get a hold. They were about this big around where they were tied. And of course, they flared out top and bottom. And you'd set one down and one against it. And then you'd set them all the way around and make a shock about this big around with those bundles sitting on the ground, the butts down and the grain on the top. And then we would put,
Caps.
we would kind of pull the tops in, and we'd take a bundle and kind of break the straws and put it on top. And then you'd take another and break the straws where the string was, and we'd put 2 bundles on that shock. And it would just kind of point it up, you know, where you'd break those straws, and it would shed the water. It could rain on them for a month, and it would shed the water. And when it was good and dry, the thrashing machine would come, and it was a custom deal. And the guy would bring this thrashing machine, sometimes pull with an old steam engine,
Mm-hmm.
and then the farmers would we would have a wagon, and the Butoffs would have a wagon, and 4 or 5 farmers would work together, bring a team and a wagon, and the fellow that had the thrashing machine would have 4 or 5 fellows helping him with pitchforks, and we would drive these wagons through the field along those shocks, and they would pitch those bundles on to the wagons, and we would load them. It was an art to load.
But was this with horses?
Oh yeah, we pulled the wagons.
You
With
didn't
horses.
have tractors to do it.
No tractors. Oh no.
No.
There was an old steam engine that pulled the thrash machine and ran it with a belt.
Had a whistle.
Yeah. but we would load those bundles, and then we'd pull up on this threshing machine on either side and put those bundles into the threshing machine. Well, I've got some pictures, I'm sure, and they would run these bundles through this threshing machine, and it done the same thing that a combine does now.
Mm-hmm.
Sorted the grain out,
Mm-hmm.
and we put it in bags, and the straw would blow out a big pipe, and we'd make a huge straw pile,
Oh.
bit bigger than a house, a big pile of
Uh-huh.
straw.
Uh-huh.
And when it rained, well, that straw would kind of settle down,
Mm-hmm.
and it would turn water. And
Dad paid a man to cap it special so it turned water. Remember that?
Yeah, he'd pay a guy to have a fork and walk around on there.
Mm-hmm.
And now don't tear that up.
No.